It was a clear morning in Tokyo. A young student, 18 years old, got ready. Her name was Miyuki. It was her graduation day from high school. She put on a special dress, a beautiful traditional Korean dress called a hanbok. This dress was a part of her culture, her Korean history. But wearing it in public could sometimes be difficult. People in Japan might look at her strangely or even say unkind things. Her school was not like other schools in Japan. It was a Korean high school linked to North Korea. Inside the school building, there were large pictures on the walls. These were pictures of North Korea's leaders. Today, Miyuki would walk across a stage under these pictures to get her diploma. This showed the unusual life she lived. Miyuki is part of a group of Koreans who live in Japan. They are called Zainichi Koreans. Their families came to Japan many years ago. Most of these Koreans were born in Japan. They speak Japanese, and Japan is the only country they truly know. But their community, partly led by a group called Chongryon, feels loyalty to North Korea. This is a country many have never visited. It is a strange situation. They are a Korean group living inside Japan. They have their own schools and community places. They try to keep their Korean identity and culture alive. But living in Japan while being connected to North Korea is not easy. They often face problems and do not always feel accepted. Their life is a mix of two worlds, showing the complex story of Koreans in Japan. 2. The first Koreans in Japan. The story of Koreans in Japan starts long ago. In 1910, Japan took control of Korea. This time is important because it changed many things for Korean people. Life in Korea became difficult under Japanese rule. Japan wanted workers for its factories and jobs. So, many Koreans moved to Japan to find work. They hoped for a better life and good jobs. But as years passed, especially during the time of World War II, Japan forced many Koreans to come to Japan. They had to work as laborers in mines and factories, even if they did not want to. Life for these Koreans was very hard. They worked in bad conditions. They also faced unfair treatment because they were Korean. They were different, and people did not always treat them well. The Japanese government tried to make Koreans forget their own culture. They made them use Japanese names and speak only Japanese. Korean language and traditions were not allowed easily. Then, in 1945, World War II ended. Japan lost the war, and Korea became free. Many Koreans in Japan wanted to go back to their home country. About 1.4 million people did return, but around 600,000 Koreans stayed in Japan. Why did they stay? Some had built lives in Japan, maybe started businesses or had families there. Also, Korea was now divided into two countries, North and South Korea. It was not clear where to go or what the future would be like in Korea. For the Koreans who stayed in Japan, things were still not easy. They lost their Japanese citizenship after the war. This meant they did not belong to any country. They became people without a country, or stateless. They were like outsiders in Japan. They had to carry special cards to show they were foreigners. They could not get many jobs and faced many problems. Their future in Japan was very uncertain and full of challenges. 3. A new Korean group. After the war ended, Koreans who stayed in Japan needed help. They were far from home and faced many problems. They wanted to keep their culture and language strong for their children. So, Korean people in Japan started to form groups. These groups helped them find jobs, places to live, and support each other. They also felt it was important to have their own schools. A large group was formed called Joryeon. This group worked hard to open schools for Korean children. They believed learning Korean language and history was very important. Soon there were many Korean schools in Japan, helping thousands of students. But the Japanese government did not like these schools. They wanted the Korean schools to teach like Japanese schools. In 1948, the government tried to close the Korean schools. This made the Korean community very angry. They organized big protests in cities like Kobe and Osaka. These protests were very strong. Sadly, during the protests there was violence. Police and protesters clashed, and some people were hurt. Because of these events, the government stopped Joryeon from operating. The organization was closed. But the desire for Korean schools and community groups remained strong. In 1955, a new group was started. This group was called Chongryon. Chongryon was different because it had a strong connection to North Korea. The government of North Korea began to give money and support to Chongryon. This money was used to help Koreans in Japan. With support from North Korea, Chongryon became a very powerful organization. They built many new schools across Japan. They started businesses and credit unions to help Korean families. They also created community centers where people could meet and keep their culture alive. This network helped the Korean community greatly. The schools taught Korean language and culture. They also taught about North Korean leaders and their history. Chongryon built a strong network for the Korean people, connecting them to each other and to North Korea. 4. The sad trip to North Korea. Chongryon actively told Korean residents in Japan that North Korea was a truly wonderful place to live. They often described it using the words paradise on earth. Life in Japan was very challenging for many Koreans at that time. They often faced significant discrimination and unfair treatment in Japanese society. Finding steady work and accessing social support from the government were major difficulties. Chongryon used this hard situation to persuade people to move to North Korea. They made very attractive promises, saying that everyone who moved would get a good job, a comfortable house to live in without cost, and free education for their children in good schools. They presented North Korea as a strong and fair country that deeply cared about all Korean people. These strong promises gave hope to people who felt like outsiders and struggled every day in Japan. Many Korean residents decided to trust Chongryeon's words and make the move. They dreamed of finding a better life and a place where they truly felt accepted and belonged. This movement of people happened over many years, specifically between the years of 1959 and 1984. During this period, a large number of people, over 93,000 Korean residents from Japan, along with their family members, traveled by ship to North Korea. They felt hopeful, thinking they were finally going home to a life of happiness and success. However, the reality of life in North Korea turned out to be very different from the promises. It was certainly not the paradise that Chongryeon had described. The people who moved there faced many difficult situations. They were often watched closely by the authorities and treated with suspicion by others. They were generally given a low position in the social system. Many families experienced serious poverty, struggling to find enough food and basic necessities. Getting a good job was not easy or guaranteed. Many were assigned hard physical labor. Communication with their families who remained in Japan was very difficult and often monitored by the state. A very sad truth was that these people were almost never allowed to leave North Korea and return to Japan. The bright promises made to them were not kept. This situation became a very big sadness and a great tragedy for the Korean community living in Japan. Families were painfully separated, living in completely different and unequal worlds. For those who left, the dream of returning to a homeland turned into a life filled with hardship and a lack of freedom, far away from the promised paradise. This whole experience caused deep emotional pain and lasting sadness within the community. It slowly revealed the difficult reality about the place that Chongryeon had so strongly supported. The journey that was supposed to be a fresh, happy start for thousands became a journey into a life of difficulty with no possible way back home. 5. Why people got angry. Things changed a lot in 2002. That year, the leader of North Korea said something surprising. He told Japan that North Korea had secretly taken Japanese people many years ago. This news was a shock for everyone in Japan. People felt very angry at North Korea. Because Chongryeon supported North Korea, many people in Japan started to feel angry at Chongryeon too. They thought maybe Chongryeon had helped with these bad actions. At the same time, North Korea started testing dangerous bombs called nuclear weapons. They also shot missiles. These tests made people in Japan feel very afraid. The Japanese government and police started to watch Chongryeon more closely. They began looking into Chongryeon's money. Police found some financial problems and illegal actions with money.
Chongryon had money troubles and some of their banks failed. This also made people trust Chongryon less. Because of all these problems, like the kidnappings, the weapon tests, and the money investigations, people in Japan felt more and more angry. This anger sometimes turned into hate. Some people started using angry and mean words against Korean people living in Japan. This is called hate speech. Korean students, especially girls wearing their school uniforms, sometimes faced hate speech or even physical attacks on the street. Groups of people sometimes went to Korean schools to shout angry things. It was a very difficult time for the Korean community.
The actions of the North Korean government caused big problems and made life harder and more dangerous for Koreans in Japan. 6. The fight for the schools. In the year 2010, the Japanese government started a plan. The plan was to make high school free for all students. This included students in many different schools, even schools for foreign students. At first, this plan included the Korean schools too. But later, in 2013, the government changed its mind. They decided that Korean schools would not get this free tuition money. The government gave reasons for this decision. They said the Korean schools were too close to the government of North Korea, which they called a hostile government. They said the schools taught things that supported North Korea's leaders. The government also talked about past issues, like North Korea kidnapping Japanese people and making nuclear weapons. But the Korean families and the schools saw it differently. They said that stopping the money was not fair. They believed it was discrimination against their children. They said their schools gave students a good education and helped them learn about their culture. The decision had real effects on families. Parents had to pay a lot of money for school fees. For some, it was very hard, and they had to send their children to Japanese schools instead. Students also felt bad. They felt that their schools and their education were not seen as important or equal to others. They felt different because of where they studied. To fight against this, the Korean schools and families went to court. They started long legal battles in different places in Japan. They argued that the government's action was against the law and the idea of equality. They wanted their schools to have the same rights as other schools. Even groups from other countries, like the United Nations, looked at the situation. Some of these groups said that not giving money to the Korean schools was not fair and was like discrimination against the children. The fight for the schools became a big part of the community's struggle in Japan. It was about more than just money. It was about their identity and their right to choose how their children were educated. 7. A difficult feeling. People sometimes ask why Koreans in Japan, who live in a free country, would support a country that was not free, like North Korea. For many older Koreans in Japan, it was a complicated feeling. They had faced much unfair treatment and felt like outsiders in Japan. Supporting North Korea was a way for them to feel strong and keep their Korean identity. It was a way to show they were different and proud to be Korean, not Japanese. They saw North Korea, from far away, as their true home, a place that promised a good life and respect for Korean people. This was especially true during times when they felt most hurt by discrimination in Japan. But life is different for the young people today. Many younger Koreans were born and grew up only in Japan. They speak Japanese easily and feel more connected to Japanese society. They also know about South Korean culture, like popular music and TV shows, which is known around the world. These younger Koreans often feel a difficult feeling inside. They love their family history and their Korean culture, but they also see the problems in North Korea, like how people are not treated well. They know about the sad stories of people who moved to North Korea hoping for a better life, but found it was not true. Learning this information has been hard for families in Japan. So young Koreans live with a contradiction. They have their heritage and family ties, but they also see the reality of the North Korean government. This makes it hard for them to understand the choices their grandparents made and to decide what it means to be Korean for them today. 8. The future. The story of the Korean people supporting North Korea in Japan shows a difficult cycle. When they faced unfair treatment in Japan, it pushed them to keep their Korean culture and identity very strongly. Many felt a connection to North Korea as their homeland. But this strong link often made people in Japan suspicious. This suspicion then led to more unfair treatment against the Korean community. This pattern repeated for many years. But this cycle is now becoming weaker. The older generations, who built the Cheongyeon Group and kept the strong link to North Korea, are now very old or gone. The world has also changed. North Korea faces problems. The Cheongryong organization is not as powerful now. Its schools have fewer students, and its businesses are smaller. Its influence is much less. So the future for the Korean people in Japan is not clear. What happens to their identity and culture? Will younger generations who grew up speaking Japanese and feel more connected to Japan slowly become fully part of Japanese society? Will they maybe not feel the need to keep a separate Korean identity tied to North Korea? Or can they find a new way to keep their Korean culture alive, like teaching language or sharing food, but still feel completely at home as residents of Japan? Their story is important for everyone. It makes us think about how people see themselves and their background. It asks about belonging to a place and a group. It also asks how a country should treat groups who are different, making sure they have justice and equal rights. How do you think a person can balance loyalty to their heritage with their identity as a citizen of the country they live in?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.